Okay. So guys, we are 4 after. Why don't we get started? On the bridge, we have about 25 people. So folks on the bridge, I'll skip the intros if that's okay, because we cannot see you. In the room, we have about 15 people. Last couple of sessions, we got to 80. So hopefully people will show up. Okay. And folks on the bridge, if you have questions, just put them in chat. We are monitoring chat. So we'll take questions along the way. So AI is very powerful. I'm like the eternal optimist. But AI is not a hammer that you can use everywhere. So today we'll talk about what are some of the challenges and risks with AI? Why do we have the risks? What will happen over time? And how we can mitigate them. We cannot solve every risk, but my glass is 90% full. Figure out, if you know what the 10% is, you can do something about it, right? So that's the spirit. Okay, we have 200 people registered. So far, more than 100 unique visitors have come to the class. But if you register, you get a copy of my slides. So maybe that's why 200 people registered. So we are in session 4. Session 5 will be 2 weeks from now. We cannot find a room on the UST campus. That was supposed to be an in-person session. So we are forced to turn it into a remote session. So please don't show up on the 28th. We'll do it remotely. And the last session, we are going to have 6 to 9 startups pitch. I have 5 of them lined up, including Lauren and Nicole. If you guys want to pitch your startup, you know where to find me. Okay? If we have 6 startups, we'll do 15 minutes each. If we have 9, we'll do 10 minutes each. We cannot do more than 9. Session 6 will be in person only, in this room. And to incentivize people on the bridge, I'm going to bring samosas. So if you guys want samosas, please come to the room. Okay. So if you missed session 1, session 1 was basically AI has been around for 75 years. Sometimes it is good to look back before you look forward. So what can we learn looking back? And we spent a lot of time, session 1, doing that. Session 2, we said, at the end of the day, who deploys AI? Enterprises deploy AI. Consumers deploy AI. In enterprises, healthcare deploys AI. Retail deploys AI, but also sales deploys AI. Marketing deploys AI. So at the intersection of verticals and functions, what are people using AI for? What is driving the need for AI? In the last session, we talked about more technology perspective. What is the stack? What's happening in each layer of the stack? And for many founders out here, what are the opportunities to start a new startup and for investors to invest in them, right? So, so today we'll talk about the other side of the coin, challenges. By the way, this is in the room or on the bridge. More than 50% startups, 15% investors, and so on. Okay, I'm going to skip my intro. Let's start with challenges. So last week, I was at TED in Vancouver. I was there Sunday through Sunday. I was thinking maybe I should not say anything. Just have you watch the opening session and the closing session. The opening session was Carol Cadwalder. She is a very famous journalist. She has been with The Guardian for many years. She was the first one to break the Cambridge Analytica story. She had spoken at TED in 2018. 3 years, she had to keep going back and forth, court system and jail and so on. Because, if you talk about things that take courage, sometimes you have to take people on. And then the closing session, we have Sam Altman talk about the possibilities of AI. So you guys will have access to the slides. If you do nothing else, watch these 2 talks. The first talk is about 20 minutes. Carol talks about how AI and politics are sleeping in the same bed. She showed this picture and many other pictures, and why this is such a risky proposition. And then Chris Anderson, he was very hard on Sam. This was a 45-minute interview. And he hammered Sam on different risks. One of the risks he talked about was about losing jobs, job losses. And this is what Sam said. He said there are 2 ways you can look at it. One way is AI is doing everything I can. I will lose my job. Oh my God, the sky is falling. I am done. The other way you can think about this is, like every technology revolution, you had job loss. You actually had more jobs created. The person who used to put up the telephone booth, that job went away. But many, many jobs were created. So the other way you can answer that question is, okay, AI is a new tool. It brings new capabilities. I can do a lot more. So how can I step up, right? Both of these talks, they were like, I don't know, 10, 20 standing ovations. So it's a good way to start and end TED. I would encourage all of you to watch this. The other one, so this weekend, I spent, 15 hours reading this book. Stanford has a very good AI research team. They put this out every year. This is the definitive guide on AI. It's 450 pages. It has amazing data and lots of conclusions. You can download it. It is free. I don't get any commission. It's just for you. That's a joke. I would encourage you to look at this. Okay. So today we'll talk about 2 or 3 things. Number 1, and for today, I'm going to focus on generative AI, not expert systems, not machine learning. Generative AI. What are the top risks? Why do the risks exist? What's the impact on businesses, startups, investors? What can we do about it? And I'll give you some real life examples. It's easier to remember these risks if you remember the examples. Then we will talk about job losses. Hint there is, we have already created more jobs than we have destroyed. And it has been only 2.5 years. And I got more reading material for you. Okay, so number one. So this is a McKinsey study. They've been doing it every 6 months for the last 2 years. It basically says, what are the risks people are afraid of? So bigger the blue, higher the risk. And if it goes from left to right, if it goes up, the risk is increasing, right? So the top 5 risks are inaccurate data, cybersecurity, that's data privacy, IP-related things, compliance, governance, regulatory issues, and then more on privacy. There are other things, black box model, you cannot explain what is happening, energy impact, environment impact, organization reputation, etc., etc. Generally, they are going up and to the right. Actually, I'm the optimist. They're not going up like this. They're going like flat to slightly up, right? But if you look at the opportunities, if you look at the results, they're going up like this. So opportunity over challenge, if you look at that metric, actually, my conclusion is people are figuring out how to tackle the challenges. So this is my top 8 list. I'll go through each one of them. Number 1, hallucinations. Hallucination is basically, it seems plausible, but factually it is not correct. Harmful content, deep fake, misleading content. The algorithm is not objective, it is biased. Misinformation. Privacy, generally it has to do with data privacy. IP theft, there might be legal issues, regulatory issues, etc. Cybersecurity. And I'm relying on ChatGPT too much. I'm 10-year-old, I'm relying on ChatGPT too much. Will I lose my creativity? Thanks. Okay. So for each one of them, I'll talk about the risk, why the risk exists, what's the impact, what's the mitigation strategy, and some examples. Hallucination. So hallucination basically says it's plausible, but factually not accurate. Why does it happen? Because maybe you are training the model based on the first 47 presidents of the United States, right? So the model will say, there has been no female president. There will never be a female president. It is plausible, but it is not factually correct. But because it is based on the data that exists, it is pattern matching against that data, right? What's the impact? Well, for enterprises, it is damage your reputation, your brand, your credibility. If startups do it, they won't go very far. If investors don't see through hallucination, they might put the money in the wrong place. How do you mitigate it? You use what is called RAG. You use what is called human in the loop. So you don't let the machine do all of the training, or only the machine do the training. You add a human, and every so often, the human is checking. It's not foolproof, but at least there is a checks and balance. There is another technique called fine tuning. Some examples, if you look at, some of these actually are good examples. I was trying to, old examples, I was trying to find more recent examples, but I couldn't find them. Couple of lawyers, they used ChatGPT to do some research, used that in the code. This was in June 23. They lost their license, right? This is not a ChatGPT thing, a Google thing, a Meta thing. You can find examples in every case, right? Now, hallucination, if the data set is small, there will be more hallucination. If the compute is not enough, you're not training long enough, there will be more hallucination. As the data set grows, as we have more humans in the loop, the percentage of hallucinations go down. So this is a solvable problem. Maybe that's why we are seeing fewer hallucinations. The other point I would make is, when you ask ChatGPT to write a poetry for you, it is hallucinating. When you're using Adobe Firefly to create a painting or something, it is hallucinating. You don't want to use ChatGPT to operate in the surgery room. That hallucination is not good. But in things like creativity use cases, hallucination is a feature, it's not a bug, right? So it depends how you look at it. But many people point to hallucination as a reason they are not all in. Hallucination is part of the game because we are doing pattern matching. So your result is only as good as the data you're using to match, to create the pattern. Yeah.
Would you also agree that at some level is that the way you prompt and engineer your context of your question? Because I find it from my point of view, using, coming from a strategic point for a business, asking it to present me also the non-obvious answers. Because it relies, like you said, on your data set, but it still has access to the road of research. But how to really prompt engineer to get those ones, which is only reliant on, I have to say, even the human in the model loop can be wrong because we only have our own limited set. Yeah. So using the AI as a way to force our thinking to then come with another iteration. So I guess I've been working through this, and the idea that it's an inaccuracy was the number one, right? And it went up, I'm surprised not higher.
Yeah.
Like 70–80%, because I think that's the wrong thing. You go down the wrong direction. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, that can set you back like 6 months, 5 months.
Yeah. So Dan has a good point. I'm repeating for folks on the bridge. Let me comment from my perspective. This might be repetitive for some of you or most of you. When you are searching on Google, the query goes to a big database. It finds the answer in the database and brings back the answer, right? When you are using a language model, OpenAI or Gemini or Meta or whatever, then you are pattern matching. You are saying, well, these kind of accidents happened in the past. If I do X, Y, Z, might I be in an accident? It doesn't go to the database, says exactly this circumstance, will the accident happen? It is using the pattern to determine if an accident happens. So how you ask the question, how you match the pattern determines the answer it comes back, right? In the next class, in the next session, excuse me, we are going to do the art and science of prompt engineering and how to use ChatGPT to answer in Amy's tone, or if I grew up in India, etc., etc. And prompt engineering is much more than the words you use. It's also many, many other things. So we'll talk about that. Okay. So number 2 is harmful content. There's a lot of concern around that. You've heard words like hate speech, deep fake, explicit content. You have seen examples of Taylor Swift fans. There was this thing went viral around Taylor Swift video and music, right? More recently, fantasy AI chatbots leaking explicit data. There is some bad actor involved here. But also, if the data is biased, you'll get biased result. If the prompts are not right, you'll get results you don't want to see, right? What's the impact? Again, reputation, trust. How you can mitigate it? You can have different content filters, different moderation schemes, more education. You can make sure the model is trained properly. Human in the loop, again, comes back. So there are ways to safeguard, but there are no ways to avoid this. If you have 1 million good people, there will be for every million person, there will be a bad actor. And something like this is bound to happen. So the question is, how do you minimize the risk? Number 3 is the algorithm is biased. Google got a lot of flack on this for Gemini 6 or 12 months ago. And they had to shut down, right? So not to make a political statement, but most people working at Google on Gemini were left-leaning. And so even though they had humans in the loop, there was a left-leaning bias. And that affected the results we saw. OpenAI, Sora, same thing. Lensa. How many of you use Lensa? Okay, I would encourage you to use it. I use it on iPhone. It's super good AI picture app. It was generating, when I said, okay, make this picture defect-free, it would convert black skin to white skin, right? Now they caught it, they shut it down, they changed it. But in that case, it was not data. It was the algorithm said fair skin or white skin is better than black skin, right? The good thing is these things are getting fixed so quickly. The bad thing is, new things pop up and it's like killing flies. Okay, I separated misinformation from bad content because this is not a deep fake. This is spreading false narratives. And good example would be, Taiwan, China. If you read this article, it's like Taiwan and China are going against each other. There were some images about Hurricane Helene. During the election season, there was a deep fake voice, Biden voice, making calls and saying, vote for Trump. This is Biden, right? Okay, privacy. So ChatGPT uses internet public data. My iPhone has a lot of my personal data. My emails, my calendar, my notes, my bank account, etc., etc. If I use ChatGPT on my phone, even if my prompt does not include any of my emails, is there a risk that some leak will happen and my personal data goes to the cloud? It happens all the time, right? How do you protect against that? You have to be super careful. There are different techniques, different security startups trying to solve this problem. But you're training on public data, but you're not always using public computers. You're using private computers. And so that's the main reason. When you install an app, it has 20 pages of legalese. How many people read it? Right? You just say yes. Basically, you are saying, okay, I'm sharing my cookies, whatever. You're giving away data. That data goes to the cloud. People can use it. IP. So, New York Times. Okay, this is a good one. So OpenAI, every model is trained on public internet data. There's a lot of data on the internet that was created by Washington Post, New York Times, pick your favorite news report, etc. OpenAI says, well, it's available in the public domain. I can use it. New York Times says, no. It's written by New York Times journalists. I did not give you consent. So you cannot use it. Or if you use it, you have to pay me. So, these guys sued against each other, right? Last week, there were many examples. So, any musicians here? Okay. So when you were growing up, you were listening to, everyone, right? Beatles and this and that. And then you wrote a song. When you wrote a song, I bet you were influenced by all the music you listened to. From your perspective, that's not theft. But from a Beatles perspective, in the AI context, they did not give consent to be influenced by their music, right? So, same thing for authors, same thing for movies, etc., etc. If you ask ChatGPT, create a picture from this century, this kind of genre, ChatGPT will say no. It's not specific. But if you say, create a picture as if you're Matisse, or as if I'm Matisse, it will create a picture, right? So the question is, are you stealing Matisse IP? So these things are not black and white. Depending on what side of the table you are on, you'll have a different perspective. Over time, this will get solved. But today, everybody is going against each other because there's a pot of gold, and New York Times wants a piece of that gold, right? People sued Meta, people Getty Images. Getty Images, if you go to image search, you'll find many images that are like owned by Getty, but they're available to everybody to see. So Getty is saying, no, don't use those images for training. You cannot see them. So how do you unsee something that's on the internet, right? This is a good one. This is not easy. Lots of lawyers are working on it. The mitigation strategies are at best some safeguards, but they are not foolproof. And the industry senses new business models will come about, to solve the music problem, other problems. To the extent, if you are a new startup and you have this cloud above your head, if I'm an investor, I'm like, until New York Times OpenAI suit gets sorted, I'm hesitant because they might be worth zero, right? So to the extent this creates uncertainty, it's not good. Okay, cybersecurity. So this is basically, okay. Last week I heard, you guys want to guess what percentage of pictures on the internet are AI generated? You read my post. 50% in 2.5 years. 50% of images are AI generated. They are not real, they are fake. How do you protect against that? Right, you get all these robocalls, all these emails. How do you protect against that? There is discussion in DC around, should I mark this picture AI generated? If it is AI generated, then you'll have false positives, false negatives. And over-reliance. How many of you have kids? Right? So, Nicole, what do you say? Do you say, don't use ChatGPT, you will not be as creative when you grow up? Or do you let your child use ChatGPT because he or she can do more things? How do you tackle this?
A lot of education around, so even if ChatGPT gives you the answer, it might not be accurate. But if it helps with creativity, helps them think in a different way, solve problems in a different way, there's space for it.
Yeah. So, when ChatGPT came out 2.5 years ago, what was the first reaction? All the universities like barred the use of ChatGPT, right? By the way, the same thing happened when calculators first came out. You couldn't use a calculator in an exam because then you will lose the ability to do math. At UST, I teach a class. I ask people, are you guys allowed to use ChatGPT or no? And the answer is, it depends on the professor. University of San Diego used to have a common approach. They canceled it and they left it to the professor. So the whole idea that if you use these tools, we will lose our ability to innovate, be creative. That's a debate we can have. Every other technology revolution before AI, nobody got fired for using the internet or mobile or cloud or PC. The question is, how does it change what you do, right? Same thing here. So that's my quick fast train summary of some of the challenges how people are thinking about it. These examples are happening every day. None of them will be solved in the short term. I don't think the answer is we'll wait for these things to get solved before I start using ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever. But by being aware of these risks, these challenges, we can consider these in our day-to-day work. Okay, I'm going to go to job loss discussion. But any comments, questions on the last 30 minutes? Any comments on the bridge? Please shout it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my experiences is that I tried to generate an image and I wanted a certain title on the book. I tried 6 times and never got that title right. Printed on the book. It was just having real challenges to be able to do that.
What do you mean you were trying to get a title?
Wanted an exact title on the book and I wanted an exact title on the binder of the book.
Yeah.
And every time I tried to describe that over there, enough detail or prompts.
So
I was having a difficult time.
did you know the title?
Yeah,
So then why were you asking ChatGPT if you knew the title?
I wanted to generate a picture.
Oh, you were generating a picture of the title. Okay.
And
Yeah.
generating the images seems to be a significant challenge.
Yeah.
Very, very specific.
What I would say is image generation and video generation, they have gone up like this, crazy fast. Text generation has kind of plateaued, but video and images, they are growing like crazy. Yes, CJ.
The most recent photo update they just did in GPT changed that actually. And now the font on the books in all the writing in the generation is very accurate. It's actually a change that happens every day. And this change just happened when they did their newest photo update. Very significant.
Well, I just used it a couple of days ago.
When
I
Windows
couldn't
was
even spell it.
when Windows was not working, you could wait for the next window version. It would come out 2 years from now and things would be okay. If something is not working on OpenAI or ChatGPT or Gemini, you just wait a month. Right? So the pace of change is super fast. Yes, you had a question, a comment?
I was just gonna say with the intellectual property copyrights, the point of if like the US puts restrictions on what it can do from the intellectual property, yet, other models will scrape everything and that makes what our models are then less efficient, right? So
Yeah.
there's just, yeah, I don't know, I guess it's,
Yeah, we touched on it in the first session. Internet, mobile, cloud, PC, all happened in Silicon Valley on the West Coast. Then everybody adopted that technology. AI is happening in more than 100 countries right now. India alone has 100 language models. They are not reusing OpenAI. India has a language model on Bollywood movies, right? So when fundamental research, fundamental technology is happening at all these places, you don't have the option to slow down. Yeah.
I heard a few days ago, the CEO of Microsoft was saying, very near term, agents will replace apps, meaning basically apps will become like assistants. Do you have any views on that as it relates
Yes.
to the job loss situation?
Yeah, I have lots of views on that. Okay. When you ask ChatGPT something, it's information gathering. It is research. We are going from research to actionable AI. So I asked ChatGPT to find a hotel in Vancouver, Canada for this week. And book it. It finds a hotel because it knows the kind of hotels I stay in. It has my credit card information from the last time. It has my travel itinerary. It finds it, books it. If I have it set up like ask for confirmation, it will do so. I have it set up as auto confirm. So I don't need an admin assistant. The app, I still have to go to the app. I have to ask the app to do something. But agents are like actionable AI. And we'll have agents for all of the actions. Like in the enterprise, there are so many things happen. You can have an agent, bring your own agent. So that's the big thing happening right now. Every place, but especially Silicon Valley. Okay, I'll keep moving. There was one more comment. Last comment? Yes.
You had a comment, I think it was on the third issue with AI, but one of the mitigating strategies was having transparent AI. In my limited experience, even after asking ChatGPT and Gemini to explain their rationales, the rationales didn't make sense for how they got to specific places. So either it's not giving you all of its logical steps, or it's just kind of jumping around. How do you solve that problem?
Yeah, so two answers. One, why do you say the rationale did not make sense?
Because the explanation it gave me didn't make sense, because it's something.
Is it possible that you were wrong and ChatGPT was right?
Sure.
Right? So first, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Right or wrong depends on who's looking at it. Number one. Number two, actually, when we talk about reasoning is, it does multiple steps to come to the answer. And you can see the steps. Normally, like pre-reasoning, when you ask for something, it will just give you the answer. And the issue is called explainability, black box. You don't know how it came up with the answer. But with reasoning, it lays out the reasoning it used every step of the way, right? So that's one step in the transparency, explainability direction. But the other thing I would say, I'm not picking on you, I do it all the time, is, I've had my friends say, well, I cannot trust the machine. A human doctor is a better doctor because it's human. I can empathize, right? Perfectly good thing to say, except the data shows otherwise. So in blind test, if a doctor is doing surgery versus a machine is doing surgery, like Turing test kind of thing, Stanford has had multiple projects on this. The machine is winning every time. Because once you don't see, then you're not biased that the machine is operating or a human is operating. Heck, a friend of mine, she's CEO of Loom, L-U-U-M. It does makeup, robotic makeup. And what they're finding is customers prefer robotic makeup than person makeup. These things will change. It's very dependent on the individual. I would not assume that I'm always right and the machine is always wrong, et cetera, right? Okay, let's talk about job losses. How many of you are worried about, I won't ask the question, how many of you are worried about losing your job? That's the wrong way to think about this. How many of you are worried about AI taking away jobs? Anybody? Okay, maybe 25% of the room.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Excuse me, a comment. It's not original, but I think it's gonna replace the job, and I heard it was like, it's called 3D, like dull, dangerous, and dirty. So, I mean, I had a dull job and like, I did not, and I was like, AI should replace me, and so I think that, like, if you don't wanna do drudgery, it can be liberating. So, I don't see AI replacing jobs as totally bad thing. It'll replace the job nobody wants to do anyway.
Yeah, that's the right way to think about it. AI will replace jobs that humans don't want to do, cannot do, and should not do. Don't want to do. Cleaning bathrooms for 30 years of your life. Some people do that, have to do that, because they need the paycheck, but they don't want to. Cannot do. 100-story skyscraper. Not very safe. I guess they can, but it's not very safe. Or should not do. They can, but right? Cannot do. Driving your car with zero risk of an accident. 40,000 people get killed in the US every year because of human error. Autonomous will be better than that. A human cannot do that, right? Let me share the data, because you cannot argue with data. So first, I did this for a consulting firm. I cannot share the exact results, but this is the conclusion. Internet, mobile, cloud created more jobs than we lost. Created new kinds of jobs. AI is doing the same thing. At the end of 23, in Silicon Valley, big tech laid off 150,000 people. Startups created 100,000 jobs at the end of year one. As of December 24, in Silicon Valley, AI has created more jobs than it has taken away. Now you can extrapolate that to every place, right? I did some work with McKinsey. These are some McKinsey charts, public information. McKinsey did a study from 1850 to 2015. This is not a surprise, right? Agriculture jobs went away, manufacturing jobs went away, other jobs came up, not a surprise. So like you're saying, Dan, this is not job loss, this is job replacement. McKinsey thinks by the end of the decade, 375 million people globally will lose the existing job they have because of AI. This is not just US thing or China thing or Mexico thing. This is not $10, $15, $20 job an hour. This is also 3,000, 5,000 McKinsey consultant jobs. This is pervasive. By the way, not a political statement. Doge canceled $5 billion worth of consulting contracts today from McKinsey, Deloitte, BCG. All three are laying off people. It's a direct, because Doge is saying AI can do what these guys are doing. OpenAI has a OpenAI is free, $20 a month, $200 a month, and they introduced $20,000 a month. Early indication is, Sam Altman talked about this. $20,000 a month is beating McKinsey and BCG consultants at a fraction of the cost. So $20,000 might seem a lot, but it ain't if you look at the alternative, right?
I would say though, that as you go look at the previous graph.
Yeah.
Previous graph,
This one?
no, the other one. Two previous.
Yeah, what's your
One that
question?
talked about the evolution there, that one.
Yeah.
As you go from one section to the other, your skill sets are getting more difficult and that they're more difficult to fulfill.
Yeah. So, okay, you're making two comments. One, the skill set has to change. No argument. It's not job loss, it is job replacement. If you're going to go from one job to the next job, you have to reskill yourself. And by the way, this is happening. Remember, ChatGPT came out 2.5 years ago. The fact that there is so much focus on reskilling already, and it is happening. This chart basically says 9% of the companies had 50% of reskilling, and 44% had 5%. This is just getting started. This is a decade-long thing. So I think that's a given. The second comment you made, I don't agree, which is it is getting increasingly harder to learn new skills. I would actually posit the opposite. AI is making it easier to do the jobs, to learn the skills you couldn't do yesterday. The programming. Pick any skill, not any skill, but where knowledge can make you better, AI is making it better. So I would not assume things will be harder tomorrow. What I would say is as long as one is open to reskilling themselves, you will be doing more value-added work because the repetitive work is being done by the machine. And
Question before you move.
Yeah.
What would be some examples of the reskilling that is going on now? 4% or reskilling, what does that involve?
yeah, so I forget your name.
Catherine?
Catherine. This is a good example of that. So this chart says what kind of AI roles didn't exist pre-ChatGPT, and people are taking on those roles, right? So design specialists, software engineers. Software engineer would be a very good example of, very good answer to your question. You know, I wrote C++ and C. I never wrote Python. I don't know how to do Python. Now I don't have to. It's making things easier. Building a website used to be hard. Now, you know, it's so easy. Things, yeah, I'll come. Things that are not getting any better would be where you don't need technology. You know, cleaning carpets, right, or cleaning the road, etc. The physical labor, we are not there yet. That is why humanoids will change that too, right? So actually, Catherine, that's a good question. I cannot imagine, if you take the long view, 10 years, 20 years, I cannot imagine a single thing, a single occupation that will not get easier with AI. Yes. Yeah, can you speak up?
Yeah, possible than studies. So I think it's easy to assume that AI is going to take over the jobs that are where people lack skills or are unskilled. But there are some jobs, I think we need to put things in a balance because of course we're forgetting that all these people, there's a whole bunch of our population that depends on those jobs. We have families, we have to make payments and pay bills based on those jobs. So for example, in hospitals, we encounter medical interpreters all the time, right? And these are highly skilled individuals. And this is not someone just off the street that speaks both English and Spanish or English or whatever. But these are people that have been trained. Take, for example, an example.
Yeah, can you keep it short? My time is up. I don't want people on the bridge to be waiting.
Yeah. Take, for example, the consecutive interpreters for the UN, for example. You know, that at the same time that they hear one language, another language is coming out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Now that is being taken over by AI, but that is a very highly skilled task that not everybody.
So what's your point? That some jobs will not be taken by AI? Can you give an example? Can you give an example?
Pardon?
Can you give an example of a job that will not be taken over by AI
That will not be taken away?
in a hospital?
Decision making for empathy cases where you have to make a decision based on ethics.
Decision making based on ethics. Hold that thought. Let me finish because people on the bridge, if they want to drop, I don't want to hold them, but we'll come back to that. So guys, just a couple of last slides. This slide I found, this data I found very interesting actually. This slide says these are big companies. They are saying headcount reduction because of AI. McKinsey is a reputed consulting firm. The sample size was 1,000 plus. What they concluded was AI replaced some jobs, but the total headcount did not go down. So the people who lost jobs in this study were given other jobs and there were no layoffs. Now this can be controversial data. You guys may not agree, but just the data, right? So something interesting to look at. So my bottom line on job losses is AI is happening. It's happening everywhere. We cannot say I'm going to hold off because it's not a good thing. There are so many risks, etc. The question is, how do you deal with the risk? In terms of job loss, it is not job loss. It is job reskilling, job replacement. So quickly in the technology cycle, so many companies, so many governments are focused on reskilling programs. I've never seen anything like this before. I'm happy to debate. I put some articles, these two articles, they have data on which jobs people are losing, which jobs they are getting, and how the sum of A and B is equal or higher. This is a very good article on IP. Then I found some other articles. So I don't want to hold up if any of you want to leave. Again, I'm here because of Brink. And our next session will be not next week, but in 2 weeks, it will be remote only. We will play with some of my favorite tools, prompt engineering, etc. And then the last session, 5-5, again, if you have a startup, if you want to pitch, reach out to me. I have 9 slots. I have 5 companies right now. And last session will be in person only. Session 5 and 6 are 90 minutes each. Okay. The last 3 sessions, what happened was I went through the slides in an hour, and then people didn't want to leave. So I had to cut people off at 6:45 because I have to teach a class. So I'll do the same thing today. On the bridge, in the room, if you guys have questions, let's go through the questions. I have to shut down at 6:45. But let me go to, you want to come up so you can? So ethics. I'm going to debate with you, okay?
That's what
Are you?
professors do.
Yeah. Are you implying that a human has better ethics than a machine?
Better what?
Is a person more ethical than a machine?
Yeah, I think there's something subtle that perhaps.
No, that's a yes or no question. Is that the assumption? Okay. If that assumption were not true, then jobs where ethics are required would also be taken over by AI, right? Okay. So let's talk about that assumption. What are my ethics based on? I'm 30 years old. My 30 years of lived experience. What my parents taught me, what my teachers taught me, where I grew up, my friends, etc., right? Her lived experience is different from mine. My definition of ethics is going to be different from her definition, right? So ethics is not right or wrong, good or bad. Ethics is colored by your lived experience. Each individual has had only one lifetime of lived experience. When you go to a machine, the machine is trained on everybody's lived experience. It's like going to a doctor. The doctor I go to may not be the best doctor in the world, but the robotic surgery I get done, that doctor is the best doctor in the world, right? If you take that perspective, it's a similar point I was making earlier, that just because we are quote human, just because this hurts, doesn't make us better. The machine, if it is not better today, it will get better over time.
Yeah, I can see your point, and I think you're right, because also, for example, if all the decisions is made by one person or one group of people, one group of people may be more citing towards profit, for example, and not the benefit of the patient, as has been happening with many of the medical insurance companies. And there was a recent case where someone actually got killed because of things. And so I completely understand. So maybe what needs to happen is that once the decisions and once all of the programming is fed into this robot, then there needs to be some sort of panel that controls that, so that it can, for example, adjust how much influence this has over that or that has over that, so that not everything is based on.
Ricardo, let's continue offline, because what makes the panel,
What takes the balance? I don't know.
no, what makes the panel better than everybody? Right? So I think we have to be careful that it's like, if you have a jar and if you have a bunch of stones, each person would have a difficult time saying, here are the exact number of stones. But if I take the average of everyone, it will be accurate. Same kind of thing here. The language model is based on everybody's collective intelligence. And so that is always going to be better than an expert panel, because you and I are saying, okay, these 4 doctors, they are the best doctors, they are the experts, they decide. That may not be the right answer, right? But it's debatable. Yes, Catherine.
The slides are available?
Yeah.
Where are they?
If you registered, they'll come to you in your inbox.
Second one, we have an app store for apps. Is there something like that for AI? Is there some place to go for AI?
Yeah.
I don't know where that place is.
Yeah. There is this place called Manus, MANUS. So agentic AI is less than a year. If you remember the early days of apps, it was like bring your own app. Everybody had their own app. Everybody had their own app store. And then things standardized around Apple and Android, right? Right now, everybody has their own agents. Google, OpenAI. Like if there are 100 companies, there are 100 different architectures. This concept of agentic AI is less than a year old. Google just came out with their agentic thing, like over the last month. So over time, most of these guys will go away. Maybe a new player will emerge. It will not be one, it will be multiple. There will be different players in different countries, because today, everybody uses Android and so on. So today there is no such thing as a agent app store. Salesforce has Agentforce. This other company Manus has like third-party agents, but we are very early.
One more question then. I went to the AI show, there was an AI summit. And I was overwhelmed. I call them vendors. I don't know, people who have different things they want to offer. How do we refer to them? Are they offering an AI agent? What are they offering?
Yeah.
What's the terminology around what they're doing? It's very confusing. Sees everybody there and also how that partitions into, so for example, higher education versus some other type of business.
Yeah. It's Brownian motion right now. We'll streamline. I go to TED every year. In April 23, TED logs the schedule 6 months before. So they logged the schedule before ChatGPT came out. There were 90 sessions, 90 talks. There were 3 or 4 patchwork AI talks. Last year, April 24, there were 2 sessions of talks, so 12 talks. This year, 90% of talks had AI. So AI is like quality. You don't have a quality department or innovation department. Everybody's work is quality, innovation, etc. AI is getting to that. So AI in music, AI in dance, AI in raising your kids, etc., etc. So the ecosystem is very new. We don't have all of the terminology. Okay, let's take Pratyusha, you are here. Are there questions from the bridge?
There's one question regarding a session. For session 5, do we need to have any access to AI tools?
Yes, please have access to your PC or your phone. The rest I'll come prepared. So if you are not using ChatGPT, I will show you the URL for ChatGPT. Otherwise, we'll do more interesting things like prompt engineering. Okay. Other questions, Pratyusha?
No, that's not it.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question for next week for the AI apps.
Yeah.
You're gonna go through a number of different apps where you, and sort of related to upskill, how you can learn new skills. These are the most common ones that you should be familiar with, and these
Yeah.
are the ones you should be using. Obviously, it depends on what type of job you are in, but at least you get a high level of different apps that are common in business.
What would you like to see?
Which apps or?
What would you like to see next?
Well, I
The
think
next
you said ChatGPT, but then Perplexity now in that program, the fellowship, so I think I've got quite familiar with Perplexity. Which that seems very useful because you can see all the source data. And now with the pro version for enterprise, you can also have your own company's data without having it go on, without having it be public information.
Yeah.
I think the other part for me would be like PowerPoint slides. How can you do them much faster? I think you do it with maybe 3 or 4 different apps.
Yeah.
And how would that work? And then there's the business analysis. That I've tried doing, I think, with Perplexity, and that's worked very well. Analysis of your competitors now.
Yeah, so I will primarily stay B2C because if you go in the enterprise, everybody has their own, right? Number one. Number two, I was thinking in 90 minutes, like show them how to fish instead of teaching them to fish. Approach. Number 3, text to text, text to video, text to animation, text to PowerPoint, text to logo, text to marketing material, blah, blah, blah. Number 4, what you said, is if I just look at ChatGPT, depending on the prompt, you get very different answers. So a little bit about the art and science of prompting, right?
Also, for anyone who's interested, OpenAI has the academy. I actually took the class this morning on ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's a good point. So,
Everyone.
so you're also doing a program with Perplexity.
Yeah.
If you shoot me a quick note, I'm happy to promote it and other people join.
Well, I think they've signed up the first cohort.
Right. Okay, on the bridge, we have 23 people. Any other questions from the bridge? Okay, yes.
Yeah, I briefly looked, I saw the hiring practices and reskilling and really feeling like, we all went through this phase before the internet. I can kind of look at the age. But that being said, knowing like, okay, this is here, we're going there. So me particularly hiring people, that actually slowed down my business scaling. Because historical one would just, I'm a clinician, I can divvy out more of my hours if I have more clinical workers. However, we're learning now that I like to use the word of a value add, the workers will be hiring. I'm looking for that 18 to 19, 18, 20. This is the skill I'm asking for. You'd be surprised how many of them don't have it. So even me, I'm ready Xing people out. They ready have all the qualifications, but they actually at this age, 19, 20, 21, like they don't even have the savviness of using these tools. So I guess this was one of my things, like I'm not worried about it. Those who are ahead of the curve, they'll get it. Robotics in 2 years, so I'm sure whoever will be doing cleaning would have these 2 bots instead of having 5 employees. I'm just saying, so I guess my question is.
Hey, thank you, Pratyusha. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Bye.
So something with the agentry, the agent, and maybe if you have an AI tool, because really I'm also looking how to build that, because I use 4 different SaaS companies to run my business. But I know the workflows already. The only reason why is I have to use it, unfortunately. So I'm also coming with the idea of how I use the agent tree and for your specific, all of us has our specific business. So that's what I'm always trying to get from the Brink. How can I use this knowledge for my specific used case? Clinical behavioral health, 25 years. There's no doubt that AI makes me a better person, both as a clinician, a founder, a leader within my small company. So I just wanted to put that out there and hopefully something with agents, because that's the level we're at now with different businesses. How can we scale this?
Yeah, I like all my babies.
Not my babies, how would you say?
But the global economy is $120 trillion. 35 trillion is manufacturing, number one. 28 trillion is healthcare. Together, they make up almost half, right? Humanoids and robotics will transform manufacturing, and healthcare will get disrupted with drug discovery, with early detection, with personalized medicine. There's so much inefficiency in the healthcare system, not just in the US, but every place. I work for a health system in Mexico. We are leapfrogging. The operating room only has doctors, nurses, and support staff. We are working with Mayo Clinic to have autonomous surgery, because in the US, there is a shortage of nurses. In Mexico and India, there is a shortage of doctors. How are you going to get around that? And when we replace human doctors with robotic doctors, actually, they do a more precise, accurate work than these guys, right? So what's not to like? Yes. Oh, you were raising your hand?
Maybe you saw it on my face. So big picture, I know you said governments are investing in reskilling, kind of piggybacking off of her question. My idea was intelligence is going to be outsourced to AI. So things like curiosity and ability to piece things together, like kind of mental connections, puzzle work, spatial reasoning. Does that become more important? Secondly, is big picture thinking more important than the small execution level stuff?
Do you have kids?
Yeah, that's
How old are they?
3.5.
You know, I don't have kids, but if I had a 10-year-old, she would be 10 times smarter than when I was 10. So the skeptical side of us might say, oh, she's using calculators. She's not going to the library. She's finding everything on the internet, blah, blah, blah. The data shows something very different. That actually, because of these tools, she has access to so much more information, so much more resource. So she's 10 times smarter than I.
Where should we in this room invest some of our energies to be ahead of the curve with the retraining of society?
Yeah, so you know, same thing will happen with AI, right? The last thing you want to do is hold your kids back from using AI. Have them use AI, have them embrace it, have them figure out how they'll use AI to do even more, to become even smarter, stronger, blah, blah. I lost my train of thought. The other thing you said is, we are outsourcing intelligence to AI. When you pay $1 million a month to a McKinsey consultant, that's when you're, by the way, I've been working at McKinsey, so nothing I guess. But That's outsourcing intelligence. When you're using AI to help you make smarter decisions, it's actually quite the opposite. You're not outsourcing. You are using AI to make you better. Right? If I pay $1 million to McKinsey Consulting, they do all the work. It's black box to me. I don't know what they're doing. But to your point, the art and science of prompt engineering is making you better. It's just a tool. You joined late. You want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, my name is Sanjay. I'm right now a student in ECSC and I'm building a startup in the sports betting industry.
Why do you work at number 2 school when you can be at number 1 school? Okay, other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, please shout it out.
Hi, this is Garrett up on the bridge. I am building a healthcare product that pays anything that you can't pay for by the end of the year, and by the time you'll get your money back from the IRS. My question is about maybe something that would be considered insider information for you. So I just want to preface it with that. Are we going to learn about model context protocol next, 2 weeks from now, or can you speak on it at all?
Sorry, you got cut out last comment. Can you repeat?
Model context protocol. It's Anthropic's protocol that was developed. I think it's open source because it's a protocol, but it's basically developed around the Anthropic model, and it's to build agents. It's a protocol to build agents.
Yeah, Garrett, let's take it offline. I'm early investor in Anthropic. I know the inside story. What I don't know is what is public and what is not. Thank you, Kat. So I don't want to blurt out things that may not be public. Let's take it offline. No, I'm not planning to talk about it in 2 weeks.
So a couple classes ago, you were saying the industries where AI would be very promising. So it's like healthcare, pretty much the regulated industries, banking, finance, insurance. So I had an idea that I was developing, but now with agents becoming more prevalent, like the clients or the companies I had planned on pursuing, like they can build their own. So I was very excited about like AI liberating people from dull and dangerous jobs. But now as an entrepreneur, the biggest threat is the hyperscalers like Agent Force or Google just released something. So then that might, like the threat of the hyperscalers offering things for free like Google does or extremely low cost to an entrepreneur that had a really niche idea for regulated industries.
You may not like my answer.
No, thanks.
The founder job is the most difficult job. In the US, average length of time people stay married is 6 years. Average time to go IPO is now 11 years, 12 years, right? So I think pursuing a startup because it might be easy or because the statistics says it, et cetera, will not bring you happiness. You have to focus on problems you're passionate about. Because you'll have higher highs and lower lows, and you'll get frustrated if, first time you run into issues. So for founders, you have to focus on what you think is the problem that is maybe personally affecting you. Most successful startup founders had the problem that affected them. Like the Uber guy, he couldn't afford black car. So he said, let me start. That will be cheaper, right? So, yeah, these things will change. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, yes.
I'm just curious on the job loss, replacement, displacement. So fundamentally, I agree, it'll create more, but when I think about the janitor that will be out of the job, or the warehouse worker, the lower income, the person working at McDonald's, it's where, do they reskill for the less generally educated? What happens there in your opinion?
Can I pick on you?
Please.
What, does he have a choice?
You are listening.
Pick one out. Yeah, pick on me, you can.
Instead of doing whatever you do, can you do a janitor's job for a month?
Well, I wouldn't want to, right? There you go.
So why do you think the janitor wants to do that job, but you're not willing to do that job?
I guess the question, I'm not answering, but I guess the question that becomes for me is, would the janitor who is now unemployed know or have the resources to tool up, skill up to find a job? And what does that look like? So, yeah.
So that's a different question, right? But, we were describing, AI will do jobs humans don't want to do, should not do, and cannot do, right? If you really talk to the janitor person, he or she is doing that job it's not a job, it's a means to get the paycheck, right?
I agree, yeah.
It's going to be better, cheaper to have robots clean things. So that's going to happen.
Right, not disagreeing.
Right? Okay. So the question is, how do you reskill that role so he or she can do a job that is higher in this hierarchy of happiness? Value. Value is a better word, right? And will that happen instantaneously? Or will there be a transition where that person loses his or her job before? That's the challenge. So I don't think the answer is, sorry to come at it this way, I don't think the answer is, no, we should not take away janitor's job, right? Right. I think the question is more, if the machine can do that job better than whoever is doing it today, we should. How do you add more value? And that's where, literally, I keep track of which countries have language models. Right? Saudi Arabia has their own language. Mexico has their own. India, blah, 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 blah. Governments are spending, when Jensen talks about sovereign AI, it basically means government spending to accelerate AI. And part of that is training program. We did not see this. PC took away jobs. We did not have massive investment in reskilling. Internet took away jobs. We didn't have that. AI in that context is very different. It's a national priority, like for every nation, right? So having said that, it's easy for me to say, harder for that person, right? There will be short-term pain. But If something is inevitable, you cannot like hold it back. Okay, I have to teach a class. So folks on the bridge, any other questions on the bridge? Ray, thanks for joining. Do you have a comment or question?
Hang on. Oh, sorry about that. No, it was just good to listen, and I was very actually interested in the latter part of the questions your audience had and how they approached their thinking into the tool set and how it incorporates into the life that they're looking forward to having or in using, and how it's going to change, the way we think about using it. So this was really a good session for me anyhow. Thank you for leading it.
Yeah, Ray, it is 10 times better if you are in the room. So next time you have the opportunity. But I think the other thing I would say is, most things I'm saying, most of what I have in the slides, they are not theoretical. I'm doing a ton of consulting, ton of real life implementations. So the use cases I showed the other day, et cetera, these are real examples. And so this is not something you read in a book, in a textbook, and say, UST, I teach a class, one class every semester. That's the only class in AI at the University of San Diego. Incredible, right? So even textbooks have not caught up. But all of our discussion, all of the examples, it's a real life example of at least 1 or 2 data points. It's not theory from ChatGPT, right? Or some book. So this thing is happening. Okay, guys, I have to teach a class at 7. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you, everyone on the bridge.